going, guys? Welcome to another episode of Zen-Oh Button. Today we're going to be going over my top 4 PPG online PiccMasu deck profile. Just as a little bit of a preface, it wasn't a super huge tournament. It was only about 30 some odd people, so definitely not going to say this is the best deck of all time, and I probably got some luck along the way. But it's a pretty fun deck. I'm sure you've seen the Zen-Oh package in it before, but yeah, I'm using the Piccolo Surge Leader. Most of you know what he does. He looks at the top card. You can either choose to take it or not. And then once he Surge Awakens, he can either, once he's at 3 life, he can either make the opponent warp 2 or ramp, which honestly those are both super useful. And you know, depending on what's going on in the current match, they can both get you the game. First 2 cards pretty standard. Dimension Magic Senzubi, nothing special there. Cell Kamehameha, super amazing card, able to add 15k for the battle, which is really good for boosting up your cards to make sure they don't blow up if you're swinging with a battle card and then ripping a card from your opponent's hand. The only thing I would say that's huge you have to make sure is all of your energy needs to be green. So, you know, you might be like, oh, I need to really charge and I really like all the green cards, and you charge a blue, like a mono blue card that's not green, and then you wind up screwing yourself over and you're not going to get the card rip, which is absolutely, like, in this deck is mandatory. The 2 sacrifice, I didn't really find myself, I think I used it in one of my matches. I really sided it just for, or not sided, I ran it just because I thought Gohan might be a huge ordeal to deal with, and if you run 6 negates in your main, usually Gohan's not too much of an issue. Just because if you can keep negating the leader, they kind of tax themselves out, and you can swing, dump your hand, get them down to 1 life, and then now they're not able to do the crit themselves and get triple strike. So the sacrifice is just there as an additional negate, and if you draw it early, you're able to just use it. You don't need energy up, you don't need spark, nothing like that. And you'll notice I actually sided 2 as well. Once again, for the in case I happen to go against Gohan, if you have 8 negates, it's pretty much like an auto win against Gohan. If you just negate every leader swing and they can never hit you with the triple strike crit, like they're not going to do anything. Special beam cannon, that's just kind of I only ran 1 just because space was a little bit tight. In fact, I could have ran 2, it would have been a little bit nicer just in those matchups. Like I don't know if you caught my stream match, I think I drew 1 Cell Kamehameha the entire match, and that kind of sucked because that's like a huge way of like how you win and defend. So the special beam cannon is just as an extra. It's not as good, but you know, it's still a way to rip cards out and play some defense. 1-drop Gohan, just self-awakener. Like, you know, I'll defend life sometimes early if I'm going against a super aggro deck like Demigra, who I actually went against, and Demigra with the draft box 5 is actually pretty freaking nasty. I think he attacked me like 5 or 6 times, literally turn 1, like 5 or 6 attacks, 15k attacks, and that's like, I don't know what how the hell to defend that. That's ridiculous. But yeah, the Gohan, definitely good because usually you want to just get your life down, not crazy fast, but you want to be applying pressure. The Gohan mixed with the Cell Kamehameha or the East Kai below it is pretty gross. If you have the energy to do all of those in 1 turn, you're going to be swinging 40k double strike crit, and your opponent just lost a card. So, I mean, if they out combo it, good on them. And the Gohan's not easy to kill because he's going to be 30k with the 15k boost from the Cell, so definitely solid. Hidden potential at 4, just absolutely mandatory. Unfortunately, in the stream match against Jiren, I didn't draw enough of them, and yeah, so and that really hurt because actually the previous day I played against Angel, and it was pretty funny. So the previous day I 2-0'd him, and then the day of the finals where it mattered, he 2-0'd me. So I mean, this is how it goes in a card game. Android 18 super combo, making your opponent send a card to the bottom of their hand. Super good in a hand destruction deck. There definitely were times where I sometimes wish I had the Paragus, but usually if you get a couple 18s in hand, a couple cells, like you can literally rip like 4 cards from your opponent's hand in 1 turn, and it's pretty wild. 17, just multicolor charge. The Roshi, super good against aggro. Just combo him off, pay 1, and you're grabbing usually either the Cell Kamehameha or Hidden Potential if you're playing a more defensive round. The the Ribrianne, now this is a Draft Box 5 support. 2 energy to make your opponent choose 2 cards from their hand, place them in the drop area if you send it from your drop area to the warp. And you'll notice when you play hand destruction, like a lot of the times what you want to do is do like the Ribrianne or the Android 18 where your opponent chooses cards and they get rid of them out of their hand, and then you want to play the Cell, because now, you know, if they have 5 cards, they get rid of the 2 cards they don't want to lose, or, you know, they get rid of 2 cards they don't care about losing, and then you use the Cell. Now there's 3 cards in their hand. You have a 33% chance of getting something they want to keep. So, and she's once again super good. Just use her for defense, especially in those aggro matchups. And you'll see I sided an additional 1 of each, because yeah, those aggro matchups where, you know, I'm maybe not going to get any of my big guys out, I want a lot of little 5Ks so I can keep dropping their hand and cycling them out. The 2 East Kais, my original build before this tournament, I actually wasn't running any East Kais or double strikes, and I always found my opponent would be at 3 life, and I needed to get them down to 1 so I could use the Android 21 to just nab their last life with the crit. And it's just so hard getting them from 3 to 1 without, like, you know, you have to go to 3 to 2, because I don't really have a lot of double strikers. So the East Kais are super useful for that, or in some cases you throw them on the Gohan and go for a double strike crit like pretty early, and that's also super good. Now for the little Zamasu engine in this, the Goku Rose, he's pretty cool. He has 2, if you're not familiar with him, he has an activate battle and a main. The battle, you pay 2 energy. You can blow up a battle card with 2 cost or less. So that's actually pretty good against some of those little aggro weenies that come at you. And then you can play this dude for 2 energy. And then his activate main is for 3 energy. You can play a Zamasu 5 cost or more. And in addition to that, so I mean that's crazy. For 3 energy, you're getting like this 7-drop dude over here out to fuse Zamasu. And then the awesome part is the next turn, you untap one of your green energy, so you can choose one of your blue-green, untap that. So the only issue with him is he is pretty fragile. He's only a 3-drop, and he only has 10k power. So the difficulty I found is, like, a lot of the times I would play him and he would just get killed the second I played him. Like, you know, it'd be cool if I blew up a card, but a lot of the times, like, he would wind up dying. And if he dies, it's really hard to get the Zamasu engine, like the 7-drop out. I mean, yeah, you can hard cast it, but I mean, 7 energy is a lot. And then I sided 1, just because, like, the Zamasu engine, like I said, it's a lot of fun, but it's not always the optimal play. And there's some decks, especially if you go against red, like, Indestructible is almost pointless. It's not completely pointless, but it's almost pointless. So there's a lot of matches where I wouldn't even really go for the Zamasu play. I would just go for pure hand destruction. Now, Artificial Impact, I don't know how many people run it, but I would almost say it's a super necessary mandatory card in Piccolo, just because you don't really have any removal. So you throw this in there, it's a little additional hand destruction. And if your opponent plays some huge card and you can't get rid of it, and hopefully they only have like 1 or 2 cards in hand, you play this, you blow up their like one thing that was hoping to save them, and you choose a card in their hand. And if you need more of them, you have the Roshi you can grab back. And I also sided a 3rd one for those matchups where I know I'm going to have to remove a lot of cards, and usually it winds up being an Invoker. I'll side in a 3rd one because I want to blow up their Vegetas, or, you know, if they bring Victory Strike out on me and they like negate my battle card skills, I could bring out Artificial Impact, blow up his Victory Strike, and since it's an extra card, it's not affected. And it's also a 5k combo piece too. So I mean, Artificial Impact, super awesome card. Now, Android 21, probably I think I have to say my favorite card, like one of my top 3 favorite cards in the entire game. Like, the amount of games I've won with Android 21, like if she's in my deck, I probably win with her, you know, whatever deck I'm playing. Like, I have an Android 18 build where I have 21 in it, and the amount of games I win with 21 is just insane. Like, I think a lot of the times your opponent just forgets that it's in your energy area. They'll be at 3 life, and I'll swing and I'll do a double strike, get them down to 1, and they're like, oh, well, that's weird. Like, why are you double striking me? Like, okay, I'll just take the 2 life. And then all of a sudden they see the 21 come out and they're like, oh, they do a face palm. Like, oh shoot, I totally forgot about that card. So yeah, if you don't know what it does, if it's in energy, you pay 2 blue, 2 green, you play her, from your energy, and then you have to sack one of your energy, and then you blow up one of their cards, which can sometimes honestly be super useful, even if you're not winning that round. Like sometimes you just need a way to get rid of it, and they crit a life. So it's pretty freaking insane. Like I said, my preferred method of doing it is get them down to 1 life and then play her. There's obviously other ways. They can be at 2 life and you can play her and then you can go for the 1 damage, but I think the safest way is make sure, if they're at 3 life, swing with leader. They're probably going to feel pretty secure. Drop an Isekai, dump your whole hand, and then at that point, they either take it, and they're probably going to because they're at 3 life, and then you play the 21. And since she's a 5-drop 25k, there's not many cards that can get rid of her. Royal Condemnation is pretty much one of the only cards I'm thinking off the top of my head that can really affect her. So super good. I main deck 2, side deck a 3rd. If you have room, you definitely want to run 3 because she's kind of like an awesome turn 1 charge for your multicolor. But like I said, space was a little bit tight trying to jam in the Zen-Oh engine. So just main deck 2 because usually you either charge her or honestly she's an awesome Surge Awaken fodder. Like your need to awaken, you put her as one of your surge pieces, and then you use your leader ability and ramp up, and you can just take her and just ramp her into your energy in active mode. So that's why I usually 2 wasn't a big deal. If I got super lucky, drew her in my starting hand, sick, awesome turn 1 charge. If not, I would just keep her in my hand, and then when it came time to awaken, or if it's a super slow match and I have 3 energy and I have nothing to do with the 4th energy, I'll just plop her as my rest mode energy. So super good card. Then the Twisted Justice Fuse Zen-Oh. So you bring this dude out with the Rose Goku Black. Basically, he is pretty cool. He's double strike indestructible, which means indestructible. Basically, the only ways to get rid of him are minusing attack power or negating the card's skills and then KOing him, sending him getting rid of him. But for indestructible, he can't be KO'd. He can't be sent back to hand. He can't be sent to warp. He can't get removed from the battle area. So like I said, against red, if they're running the Vegeta or you're going to get Surge Coup, they can negate card skills and just blow him up or just minus. He has a lot of matchups where he's not good, but if they can't deal with him, he's a 25k double strike that can't be blown up. So in some test matches I played against Red Green Broly, and his Surge Broly, and he can blow up a card, but since this Zen-Oh has indestructible, honestly, you can't blow up the Zen-Oh. So there's some matchups where he's super good and there's some matchups where he's not so good. But the sick thing is when you play him, you can either clear any 2 battle cards, send them to the drop area from your opponent's field, which is pretty sweet. If they have 2 big monsters staring down at you, you can get rid of them. Or maybe if they have 2 cards that are really annoying, get rid of them. Or you choose 2 cards in your opponent's hand. So he can definitely cause some damage, and once he stays on the board 2-3 turns, he gets pretty crippling for the opponent. Like I said, especially if it's red, you can pretty much go for game with this Zen-Oh, and there's no way they're gonna mess him up. And then finally, just the secret rare Vegeta, super good. Like I said, time magic I haven't really been seeing too much in the format, so I don't always play the secret rare. I try to time it depending on who I'm going against. Like I said, red, it's a little bit tough because they can keep minusing his attack power, but a lot of the decks, it's just really tough to deal with a triple attack double strike crit. I mean, even if they negate it 2 or 3 times, they just exhausted probably all the negates they're going to see that match, and they won't have that much of a hand unless they keep doing the sparking, which they might do. But usually I like to bring this guy out, make the opponent have almost no hand, and then bring him out. That's one of my game plans. If it's not a self-awakening leader, and I'm feeling a little risky, I'll keep them at 8, especially if they don't really get too much advantage being at 8. If they don't just keep plussing their cards, if you're kind of stalling them out at 8, then I'll leave them at 8, and then I'll literally just keep their hand super low, hard dig for the secret rare, or hopefully if I get it my turn 1 or turn 2, play this dude, and then they're going to go down from 8 to 2, gaining 0 cards, and they're going to have no cards in their hand really to deal with it. And then now they're kind of stalled out, but now they only have 2 life. So He's really good. And it's always smart to remember his other effect where, you know, if your opponent's coming at you with some huge dude, we double check. I'm pretty sure he ignores barrier. Yeah, so you basically put one of your opponent's cards in the drop area, ignoring barrier. So it's not KOing, so you just place it in the drop area, and then you can add up to 2 cards on top of your deck to your energy. In this deck, I would recommend not doing the ramp from deck, just because there's a very... I shouldn't say there's a very good chance, but there's a chance you get like one of the mono blue or your red cards into your energy. And I've done that before, and then the Cell Kamehameha turns off, and that's like honestly like 40% of your deck's power right there. So I would definitely keep that. And then I went over most of the side. Like I said, the 2 sacrifice for Gohan, special beam cannon for those matches where, you know, you just really want to go for the hand destruction, the Roshi and the Ribrianne for those aggro, the Rose, Goku Black. I honestly, if you do the Zamasu engine, I would main deck 4, just because he dies so easily, and he's very integral to getting out the big Zamasu. You kind of need to main deck a 4th one. The 3rd artificial impact, Vegeta the Cruel at 3. Vegeta the Cruel is very weird. There's been a lot of matches where he's like hooked me up big time. I don't main deck him anymore because there's a lot of barrier. He can get hit by a lot of the counter plays. Like when he goes off, it's sick because your opponent loses a card, the card they tried playing, and then they also warp a card, and then he's a 15k attacker. So like he can be really, really good. And I believe against Demigra, I sided him in, and it was a massive help because I would do hidden potential really to stop a lot of the less than 4 drops. And then most of them don't really have on play effects, so Vegeta the Cruel blows them up, and then Demigra's losing cards. So he's definitely a really good side deck option. If you have room, I would say run 2 or 3 in your main. But if not, try to make room in your side, especially if you're a little bit more of a stally deck like Piccolo. The 3rd Android 21, super necessary. The 2 Views Zamasu, Deity's Wrath. Honestly, I sided him in, and I'm trying to remember which matchup. I think I usually sided the Zamasu package in big if it's any matchup where they have no way to answer Indestructible, because they can get super annoying. He has an activate main where if you have 3 or more energy, you choose green battle cards in your area of energy with 5k power or more and a total energy cost of 5, place them in your drop area. I don't really do that in this deck. I had another build where it was more ramp focused, and I used to I would sack Android 16 and Vegeta the Cruel because combined they're 5 energy. So you're usually just playing those cards to play them. You can swing with them, you can do whatever, and then, you know, you bring out this Zamasu for 1 energy. And then, like I said, once again, if you're not going against red, this dude's, the Fuse Zamasu Deity's Wrath is a huge pain because every time he attacks, your opponent loses a card, and he's 20k, so you can just keep pressuring the leader, and like, yeah, he's getting a new card from life, but he's also dropping a card from hand. So he didn't really see too much use, just because I side 2. Like I said, it's just those matchups where you really want to maximize on the Zamasu package. I probably would have been a little bit better off running a 4th of the 7 drop than with the 4th of the Rose. That way, you know, you can, I mean, if you have the energy, like you have a couple Senzu Beans and an Awaken, like if you could play 2 Zamasus in 1 turn, like that's just devastating. And then finally, Fu the Dark Banisher. I didn't use him at all. I'm still deciding whether he's the best fit in this kind of deck, just because you have the Ribriannes and the Roshis that you keep sending to the warp. So it's kind of hard for your drop to get big because you keep losing. Like when you do the Ribrianne or when you do the Roshi, you're losing 2 cards from the drop because the Roshi goes and you're grabbing a card back to hand, and the Ribrianne, you're losing 1. So getting up to the 8's kind of a pain. And then also, if you do the Overrealm and you have Roshis or Ribriannes and you send them to the warp, they're now useless, so you can't grab them back from the warp. But this was kind of, if I went up against Hatch, I did want to have an answer. I wanted to do like some hardcore hand destruction, and try to keep the pressure up with the Gohans, get him down to like maybe 5, and then at that point bring out Fu, get him down to 2, because then once he's down to 2 to 3, then 21 can come into the mix. I can use an East Kai, and just really apply some pressure while ripping the hand apart. But like I said, he didn't really come into use in any of my matchups, just because, like I said, the Overrealm 8 is a little bit tough to get. I know I'll get it against, like, you know, Hatch, like a match where it goes forever, but you don't always want to warp your cards away. But anyways, this is like the overall deck. It was definitely fun to play. Like I said, personally, I don't think Zamasu is necessarily the best build, especially right now. Like the Goku Roses, he can die so easily. But it's definitely fun when you get an indestructible dude out and you're just like going in every turn with him and you're just playing some control. And I do like the aspect of hand control where, you know, you can actually like do math in your head. You're looking at their drop, you're like kind of like doing ratios of like, all right, what can he actually do right now, where like, you know, and you use leader's ability, like make him warp, you know, if he has 5 cards in hand, you use leader's ability to make him warp 2. You do an 18 super combo. Now they only have 2 cards, which they definitely want to keep because they were able to choose all the other ones. And then you can pop down a cell and then hopefully, you know, rip a really good card. But yeah, overall, like I said, definitely is a fun deck. I'm looking forward to doing a couple more of the PPG online tournaments. I think I'm going to stick with Piccolo just because, you know, at this point now I'm getting a little bit of experience with him. Unfortunately, I'll probably drop the Zen-Oh package. I don't think that's the best way to go. I think you're better off doing a full just hand destruction with like kind of like a big boss monster that's not dependent on a chain, because like the Zen-Oh is a little bit hard because he is very dependent on a chain. But also just keep you guys updated. Me and Iris will finally be doing the draft box match later today, so I'm gonna have this video uploaded, and then hopefully the next day or two we'll have the draft box match, which would actually be pretty fun. So we've had our decks built for a little bit, but we just haven't done the match yet. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to press that Zen-Oh button.